treasure like exploitative sex organs, expertise in domestic work, farm labor, industrial work, and above all, an attractive body, an attractive look. Now, discussing the situation in India in terms of human trafficking industry, it continues and it constitutes the source point, transit point, and also destination point. For sex trafficking, India is one of the golden triangle, that is Nepal, Bangladesh, and India. Also, several young girls from other countries like Bhutan, Myanmar, Thailand, and other countries are lured for sexual exploitation. This has become a huge profit making industry, and therefore, several persons engaged themselves in this cheap business in different ways, starting from the influential persons to street players. They have become the customers and also become stakeholder of the geographically wide extended industry. The process of women trafficking takes place in India are for the purpose of prostitution, for domestic service, for agricultural and farm labor, for industrial work, for marriage, that is bridal trafficking, and for criminal activities. Again, two types of criminal activities take place here. That is against state. Those are corruption, tax evasion, forgery of document, money laundering. And against state, this constitutes illegal detention, bonded labor, kidnapping, murder, injury, sexual assault, rape, torture, cruelty, forced abortion, forced marriage, etc. So now the factors broadly responsible for trafficking of women in India, these are the one gender-based discrimination. The second is the impoverishment, that is poverty, and the third one is forced labor and the glamour industry. So come to the point, gender-based discrimination. It has become cultural norms in India because sons are considered more useful and productive rather than daughters. This society is heavily patriarchal in nature. I may call it as a Sunstock society. This gives limited access to the girls to education, business, agriculture, which leads to wide gap in literacy and financial earning potential. In labor market also, women are low paid compared to their male counterparts. Due to this gender-based discrimination, the sex ratio is disproportionate. India has 924 females per 1,000 male as of now. The state like Haryana has the lowest sex ratio of 879 females per 1,000 males. And union territories like Daman and Diu has lowest sex ratio of only 618. So in order to meet the demand of young women for marriage, bride trafficking or illegal sale of women is prevalent here. Some northern states they have met norms of this bread trafficking. So now come to the point of the pushing factor poverty. A poor economy in India has led impoverishment and compelled the poor and uneducated community to contribute support towards family income. The women from this community are more vulnerable of sex trafficking. India, being a poor and dense populated country affected by natural calamities like drought, flood, cyclone, etc., several people migrates for this region and tend to migrate also from one place to another in search of better life. A hungry man can do anything. Under this backdrop, the young and innocent women fall prey of this inhuman act. Women from West Bengal, Odisha, Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh, and also from other parts fall prey of their business. Now, the forced labor. This is one of the complex phenomena in India where labor force sold their skill to the buyers, and it is increasing in India day by day. It is a typical system where labor force accepts advance and move from their native place to sell their labor to the debtor. Though bonded labor system was abolished since 1976, many industries depend on this kind of bonded labor where workforce turn to trafficking. Here, women and girls are not spared. They enter to such a situation that they are forced to sexual exploitation. Now, the glamour industry. This has attracted many young girls and women nowadays. In order to make an entry into this glamour industry, they adopt various foul means and sometimes fall on the hands of middlemen. They do not hesitate to spare their sexual organs and finally become victim of trafficking. Apart from this, many factors are responsible for trafficking of women in India. This is strange fact to the law enforcing investigating agency that the actors here are known to the victim. They happens to be the relatives, friends, colleagues, neighbors, sometimes parents also who coerce or force the victims into the trafficking. Now, how does this huge industry operate in India? And who are the workforce for the manager? Who are the suppliers, buyers, and consumers? It works through a demand and supply chain, DSC. If you come to an economic presumption, where there is a question of demand, there is an answer of supply. And you know, every supply relatively deserves some kind of profit. There is a source point where goods, that is, victims are procured. Here, the victims of trafficking are commoditized. They are treated like a commodity. Perpetrated, sorry, sorry, any issue. Perpetrators sell the commodities, that is, the victim being transported the women folk from different parts of India, which becomes the fertile land of producing innocent young girls and women. India is also a route of women trafficking used by organized channels of traffickers, discovers sea passage, road and airways. Women and girls are lured, procured, and sent to the predators through various middlemen by using these means. So, considering the market point, India has become a lucrative market in terms of sex industry. These women being lured from different source points and finally reach the destination where they are forced into sexual activities or economic activities or both. I am giving an example of market, that is demand factors in terms of women trafficking in India. There is a shortage of women in India due to the skewed sex ratio. The major destination states like Haryana, Punjab, Rajasthan, and Western Uttar Pradesh try to arrange marriage by purchasing bride from impoverished states like Assam, Bihar, Jharkhand, Odisha, West Bengal, Andhra Pradesh, and Tamil Nadu. The brides are called as Paro, which means from far side, and also Mulki, means one who has a price. The higher caste people in these destination states, they are able to arrange their marriage from their own community, but the lower caste failed to meet the demand. So the poor, disadvantaged, unemployed, and people having disabilities procure bride from far region and meet the demand of marriage. They engage some middlemen as marriage mediators to organize a huge pulling and pushing of human trafficking. Trafficking of women for marriage is bartered at prices based on their physicality, such as health, age, beauty, and virginity. Here, the marriage under this process, the wife purchased from far away place lost the actual status of wife and also property right. So I am not able to. I want to say one share one. It is a technical problem, so I am not able to uh, give detail. So now the trafficking of women is a compact suitcase of business exchange by family members or relatives. It has grossly violated the rights of women where they have been crossed into the vicious circle of organized crime. Uh, in this vicious circle, the state of Odisha has contributed a lot. And geographically, the state of Odisha is located in the eastern part of the country, and states like West Bengal, Jharkhand, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, and Chhattisgarh are the bordering states. It is one of the coastal states of India. This state, I mean Odisha, experienced so many natural calamities like cyclone, drought, and famine, and hence the economic condition as compared to the other states is not so sound. There are various socio-cultural constraints which has lessened the productivity of the state. Of course, agriculture is the primary source of production in the state. So, the prime contributing factor, the pushing factor of trafficking of women in the state of Odisha is poverty, though other factors like the forced migration, glamour are there. And among the 30 districts of Odisha, almost all the districts are somehow affected by trafficking of women issue. This industry in Odisha has gained national news for several occasions. Young and innocent girls have become victims of trafficking and have fallen into the vicious circle. The consequences of this has become destruction and end of their life. Citing an, I am giving an example of employment as an agency operating in the state. They are luring the young girls from Sundargarh, Devgarh, Jharsuguda, Sambalpur, Balangir, Ganjam, and other districts in the name of employment and engaging them in various metropolitan cities like Delhi, Mumbai, Hyderabad, Chennai, etc. The girls are enthusiastic enough at the time of luring for hoping that they have become the earning members of the family and can contribute economically. But the real picture is something else. They are sold, kept in four walls, and exploited like anything. And finding no other ways, they spend days in very pathetic condition. In some cases, they are engaged in sexual activities. Some are sold in brothel to the factory owner. Finally, the story of Menas never ends. So, giving a few examples of Western Odisha, some middlemen from the state Rajasthan, Haryana, Punjab, where disproportionate sex ratio I have already discussed, they target the young girls from Sambalpur, Baud, Nayagarh, Balangir districts for marriage and lure to engage in sexual exploitation, thereby earn a huge amount of money. So, in citing an example in the cities like Bhubaneswar, Puri, Berhampur, Rourkela, etc., girls from other countries, so like Bangladesh, Nepal, Bhutan, are imported for sex trade. And recently, in New Year celebration, Commissioner Police of Bhubaneswar has rescued some young girls from Bangladesh who were exploited by the perpetrators and used in the sex trade industry. Therefore, sociologically, the issue of human trafficking bears serious concern today and for the days to come, where women folk are affected to a large extent. Their lives are jeopardized once they enter to the traffic industry. So I'm displaying some newspaper clippings which cover the national and uh, local news here. You see through this news coverage that a survey of print media I have contacted. See here, Sundargarh girls sold in Delhi by boyfriend and have been rescued. See the Indian Express of January. how the sex racket operating in the state of Odisha. See again the February Indian Express, how human trafficking racket boosted and nine among them have been rescued. See another news clipping, minor girl sold for 40,000 and has been rescued. See, it's of course in Oria how bride trafficking is taking place. Again, the news clipping in Oria, how the traffic command have been sexually exploited in Pune. So this is the trafficking issue taken place during the COVID period after the death of our parents, the minor girl has been trafficked in Telangana. So see the Orissa how topped in child porn in 2008. So I want to present a case study for your reference in terms of menace caused out of trafficking in women in Odisha from my own experience. Since last few years, I have been given opportunity to be a part of a rescue operation of missing and trafficked children of Odisha through various operations like Operation Smile, Operation Muskan, Operation Pari, etc. And these are undertaken by Government of India nationwide. In the Operation Muskan, I came across a trafficked girl, say for example named X, who has been kept in a CCI, that is child care institutions at Gwalior, city of Fort. She was of 16 years old. She was rescued from the clutches of traffickers. After investigating into all the story, it came to light that she belongs to Nabarangpur, a remote and tribal dominated district headquarters of southern Odisha. She was the third daughter of her parents. Unfortunately, her mother died out of chronic malaria before 3 years. Her two elder sisters had already got married. Thereafter, her father kept another lady as his wife, who was also having a small male child after death of her married husband. When this girl turned into a grown-up age, her stepmother did not pull well and tried to drive out her from the house. So, alleging her on different ways, she regularly reported against her to her father. Finally, could able to drive her out from the house. One day, the minor girl decided to move Delhi by train, where one of the friends of her elder sister is residing. She left house in an odd hour of night and boarded train at Titlagarh railway station. When she was traveling alone in Bhopal railway station, got down with an empty water bottle to fill water in the station's pipeline. Finding her alone, a bearded man having attire of sadhu, targeted her. For her misfortune, water was not flowing from the tube of that railway station. Hence, this sadhu told her, pointing to a corner concrete room inside railway station, saying, "Go to the room and fill your bottle where cold water is flowing from the fridge kept there." Then the miner girl rushed to that room. By this time, the train left the station and the girl missed the train. The sadhu came to her and asked about her native, place of destination, her background, and all this. The manor girl disclosed all the misfortune happened to her and reason of moving to Delhi in the said train. The sadhu tried to generate faith on her, giving different type of consolation. He told her to stay with him with assurance of extending all possible supports. And with a strong and good faith, the girl stayed with the sadhu, but she was subjected to sexual exploitation by him. The sadhu committed rape on her several times for a week long and also instigated her to beg money at railway station for their subsistence. Finally, the sadhu sold the girl to a trafficker for Rs 10,000 only. While the trafficker was transporting the girl in a passenger train, he was caught hold by railway police near Gwalior. The girl was handed over to Childline, an organization working for child rights issue in India, and I rescued the girl and repatriated with all legal formalities. So the uh, key point which my presentation points out here that the body of trafficked women have become playground. We are to think and rethink whether we are going to play on the playground or protect the victims. That depends on the process of response we people, the academician, media, government agency, civil societies, and citizen as a whole are to undertake. So my concluding point that is the suggestion will be here through this presentation. This consists of 3 P's and 5 R's. 3 P's are P1 prevention, P2 protection, and P3 is prosecution. So now come to the point, prevention. There should be proper awareness from grassroots that trafficking industry is having a wide network. Never believe the unknown persons who can think for poor innocent girls or women for giving employment, or will be proper persons who will transform life. Second P is protection. Protect the victim of trafficking who are subjected to different kind of brutal torture, exploitation, traumatization. Protect them whenever and wherever you are coming across this type of victim. Inform law enforcing agency, media, civil societies, NGOs who are working to save the life of this type of victims. The third P is prosecution. The traffickers must be prosecuted with an exemplary punishment. All kinds of evidence should be collected so that traffickers will never give clue of excuse. So now the five R's are R1 is rescue. Rescue the victim of trafficking, having hearts towards them. They may have in trauma or maybe in a position not to disclose anything. R2 is restoration. Restore the victim of trafficking so that she will regain her life, her all belongings and earnings to be restored, recovered, and to be handed over to her. R3 is a repatriation. Repatriate the victim from the place of rescue and send back to her own place. She may feel secure on her own place of residence. R4 is rehabilitation. All kind of possible efforts to be done by the government agencies, NGO working in the field of trafficking to get the victim rehabilitated. The last one is R5, that is reintegration. This is the main point of all exercise, the prime point of all the exercises. If the rehabilitation process is failed, thinking of a response is worthless. There is a chance of re-victimization. Hence, care should be taken for proper rehabilitation. A lot of stigma attached to the victim of trafficking after her rescue and repatriation. So, organize awareness programs and sensitize the people towards proper social acceptance of the victims so that the menace of human trafficking will be somehow reduced. So, this is all about my presentation. Thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. Meher, for this wonderful presentation and giving a clear picture of human trafficking problem in India, especially in the state of Odisha. You have clearly explained about the causes of trafficking in India and Odisha, and also it is very interesting that you have shared some first-hand experience because as all our participants know that you are police officer, so you have rescued many victims. So I really the Sambalpur really appreciate your efforts and heads up to you that you are working hard to rescue these victims and trying to giving a good quality of life by sending them to the rehabilitation center. One of the most important thing at the end of your presentation, you spoke about the three P's and the five R. So it is very interesting. Some of our colleagues from the US and Mexico, they already spoken about this one. But just one thing I want to add about the three P's. Now these three P's are given by the you can many of our participants they can see from the human trafficking report given by the Department of State of USA. Every year they bring out one report, the human that is human trafficking report. So that they speak about the prevention, protection, and the prosecution. But now in there is the inclusion of another piece. That's why we used to say the four P's. That is the partnership. And I feel the fourth P is very much important, where all the aim of the fourth P is to bring together to all the stakeholders. Suppose, for example, yesterday I was speaking about our colleague from the Mexico was speaking about the role of media. So the media plays an important role in the process of human trafficking. So there are NGOs are there, the academicians are there like us. They are working working very hard. So the aim of 4P is to bring, that is the partnership, to bring all these stakeholders together to work in the favor of the human trafficking. So I think that we have to work about that one, that partnership. And I think here every last 6 days we have seen people from the academia, people from the civil society, and there are many people there connecting this webinar. So good partnership for all. And I think probably we look forward for this kind of the activities, so that to address the problem of human trafficking in different spheres. So with this, I would like to invite our colleague Dr. Rashmi Pramanik, who moderate the session, and I'm sure there are a few queries and the questions raised by our participant, so that Dr. Rashmi can communicate to Dr. Meher. So, Rashmi, it is up to you.
I would like to congratulate Dr. Rishikesh Meher for his wonderful presentation. And he spoke about the menace of women trafficking in India with special reference to the state of Orissa. Dr. Meher gave a very vivid picture of the basket of crimes, and he basically focused on the three components of human trafficking. It is the act, means, and exploitation. He clearly gave a picture about how trafficking is a huge profit-making industry, and the golden triangle being India, Nepal, and Bangladesh. He focused on the push factors. Clearly, he spoke about the vulnerability of human trafficking in Orissa. Then he switched over to the different causes and consequences of human trafficking. It was quite pathetic to listen about the case study where he spoke about a minor girl being exploited by a sadhu, and he's told that the body of a victim has become a playground. Thank you very much, Dr. Meher, for this wonderful presentation, giving us a very good insight on the women trafficking in India, special reference to Orissa. There are a couple of questions which the participants would like to listen from you. The first question is, if family is involved in trafficking as perpetrators, then who files the missing diary for the lost girls? Should I repeat it?
Yeah, yeah, I'm getting, no problem. Continue, I'm getting.
If family is involved in trafficking as perpetrators, then who files the missing diary for the lost girls?
Okay. So anybody, the perpetrators, maybe the perpetrators, in that case, the information can be lost in any police station. Any police station. I'm repeating, any police station where any person, those who are having some knowledge of the trafficking, anybody can lodge information, right?
Okay. Then the next question is, if trafficking cases go unreported, then what is the nature of police investigation regarding this organized crime?
See, in many part of the country, the women and children, mainly from poor background, they are victim of trafficking. So they don't want to report to police this type of issues. So police has their own mechanism of collection of information, that only police can lodge FIR on its own information. There is no problem for this. So the police has some collection, the mechanism of surveillance, and through this that the affair can be lost also. And every year some operations are going on, at least for 2 times in a year. And in that, like the Operation Pari, Operation Muskan, Operation Smile. So through this operation, police try to rescue different type of missing children and women, and also trafficked children and women. And this is a nationwide program going on for 2 times every year. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. Can trafficking cases involved in glamorous industries be regarded as white-collar crimes for a criminological theory perspective?
Interesting question. Why not? This is a white collar crime, and also very much organized in nature. I have already explained in my presentation. This may be the white collar crime, because the persons, well-off persons, they are engaged in this organized nature of crime. Definitely.
Thank you very much. There is one more question. Are there some specific provisions in Orissa for tribal girls, specifically to prohibit human trafficking?
Pardon, please repeat the question.
Are there some specific provisions in Orissa for tribal girls, specifically to prohibit human trafficking?
No, not specifically for tribal girls, but the law are there. That is the Prevention of Human Trafficking Act. It's for all, not for specifically for tribal. And for in terms of the exploitation of scheduled caste and scheduled tribes, it is coming under the STSC P Act, Scheduled Caste, Scheduled Tribe Prevention of Atrocity Act. It is also coming. Some sections are coming under this purview. So, especially for trafficking, there is no specific law for tribal girls. In general.
Thank you so much. Last question. Is there any financial support by government to the rescued girls?
Yeah, there are so many rehabilitation centers nowadays in almost all these districts. The government is undertaking the different kind of support to the rescued girls, and they are kept in a rehabilitation center, and they are also repatriated to their native places. Yeah, there are some provisions are there, and also rehabilitation center.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hrishikesh Meher, for your wonderful presentation, as well as clarification of some queries which our participants had got. Now I request Professor Arun Kumar Acharya to conclude the session. Professor Acharya.
Thank you, Dr. Rasmi. Thank you, and also thank you, Dr. Meher, and all our participants to join with us and raise the queries and the question to Dr. Meher. And I hope all our participants, they have enjoyed the talk of Dr. Meher. So with this, I would like to invite you all again on Monday, that is the last day and the day 7 of this international webinar on migration and human trafficking. Just remember that on day 7, on the 22nd of June, we have 2 presentations. That is Dr. Adela Lewis from Canada. He is going to present this very interesting presentation. He is going to have, that is the paper orphans, an analysis of growing supply sides of child trafficking through orphanism in Africa. And the last presentation is by me, that is the 2030 Agenda to Sustainable Development and Human Trafficking where India stands. So these two presentation we have on the day 7. So the time will start from the 9 in the morning, and it will end at 12. So it's on Monday it's going to be a long session. So I request all our participants or resource person to join again on Monday. So have a nice weekend, and thank you very much to all. Thank you, Dr. Meher. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Acharya.